need
Correct.
to move any of the business.
Yes.
So do I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So move.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll do any further discussion? Nope. Roll call vote. We'll start with Cedric.
Aye.
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 It's been accepted and, excuse me. Moving on, public comment. Do we have? We have some public comment. Okay. So if you'd like to come up or stay, I guess, have you signed in with the cards as well?
They
No.
just signed in at the sign-in sheet.
They signed the sheets.
Mhm.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind coming up, that would be great. And just to give you an idea of how this works, we typically give 3 minutes.
I won't take that long.
Yeah, and then if there's any questions, staff will follow up.
Hello. Oh, ooh,
Yeah.
it's a hot mic. Hi, my name is Scott Dossett, and I've been around here forever. And I am really enjoying playing pickleball. And first of all, I want to thank all of you for doing what you do every time you meet and all of the rest of the things that you do for UPD. I know sitting on boards and commissions has been a habit of mine, and you guys are essential to the process, so thank you for everything that you do. I had a great year in Brookins and Dorr. Really appreciated being able to share that facility. We're playing sometime in groups of up to 12, 14 over at Blair now with permission to tape the courts, and I know that there's a concern about the removal of the tape and the condition and stuff like that, and that some of our people are working with you guys to make sure that everything is fine. And I just want to push for some full-time courts somewhere inside the Park District. I know your planning horizons are from what happens next week till what happens the next time someone offers us grant money. And I think I'm 60, well, actually, I will be 66 tomorrow. And thank you. And for someone of my age, this is really an excellent recreational opportunity. Not a lot of super stretching, pretty good cardio. I feel like I build up a pretty good head of steam as I'm playing, and I've found that this group, particularly that started at Brookins and that was facilitated by UPD, they're going to become friends, and it's going to be a good social environment for me. So I just want to say that as you push your planning forward for your facilities, that you consider some nice full-time courts. And I guess the reason to mention the full-time is because it gets kind of confusing to play with all the lines, particularly at Brookins. I think that's been used for everything, a partridge in a pear tree, and so then we add the pickleball lines, and it gets a little harder to play the game. So anyway, that's all I have. Any questions? I'm not going to stay for the rest of the meeting, so I appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. Thank you very much again for all you guys do. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Early. Usually I'm late when I tell somebody happy birthday, so now I'm early. So Scott, have you given up on horseshoes? Ah.
Can I just talk about horseshoes?
Sure.
For a second?
Yeah.
We're wanting to move back into that space. Almost everyone that I have talked to is afraid of the reconstruction of the pits. Now, that may be because we're a bunch of kind of slacker throwers, but the amount of concrete that went around the boxes, we prang these things. We throw the shoe, and sometimes, the perfect shoe does this. Well, sometimes we throw them flat.
Line drive.
And I'm hoping that people can get used to it, but I really appreciate the fact that we have that facility, and some of us have talked about maybe bringing some rugs or something like that and kind of laying down to try to soften that surface just a little bit.
Is it damage to the horseshoes?
No. It all has to do with personal safety.
Oh.
Even with the old boxes, if you, that shoe weighs, well, actually, I don't know what it weighs. Corky, do you know what a horseshoe weighs?
Say it's at least
9 pounds?
You know, well, I mean, it's got I don't know how much they weigh, but it's got a lot of momentum behind
Yeah.
it. And we all kind of pay attention. It's definitely something that you want to keep your eyes out looking. And I don't know what the purpose was for the two short walkways, although I suspect that beside either box, although I suspect that was maybe to allow for younger people to kind of play the game with older people and kind of stagger. It's almost like a woman's tee, if you would, in golf. So we're going to get started. It will be Tuesday, and then we'll see what everybody looks like. But it's a concern of ours that we have a good, safe game. So anyway,
Okay, I was
you ask, and so I thought I would tell you. You know, we've kind of been censusing. We've all been like, when's it going to open? When's it going to open? And people are like walking around going, wow, we're going to have to really be careful.
Okay.
So, and we will be, or we'll go to Carl.
We'll warn them you're coming.
Just for the record, I was way off on the horseshoes, but I guess that as I get older, they feel better.
They feel, and that means you have to throw it harder to make it go there. So, be well, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, Scott.
All right. No more public comment. We'll move on to UPD new staff
I
introductions.
think we have one, and Corky's got us.
So today we've got Rebecca Craddock. She is a intern for us with our outreach and wellness department. She's working on her master's in community health at University of Illinois. She's been very enthusiastic and a big help in the first couple weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks she's been here. So she's been doing some neighborhood night stuff. I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna take everything from you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I've been kind of helping with a lot of different programs. I've been helping with the neighborhood nights. We just had our first play days in the park. Fitness in the park just opened up, so I've been helping with that. And then we also are doing with Urbana a multilingual learner summer camp. So those are kind of the main things that I'm working on right now and just like helping out around the office. Yeah, I'm first year. I just finished my first year of my Master's of Public Health, and I have a concentration in health behavior and promotion. So I'm just really excited to get out in the community and interact with everyone and just get some opportunities to, be helping around the Park District. I'm really excited.
And if I remember correctly, from Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes, from Cleveland, Ohio.
For 5 years since you started school.
Yes, I've been here for 5 years. So I did my undergrad here in integrative biology. So I've been around for a while. So Urbana's my home. I'm really excited. Yeah.
Great to
Thank
have
you.
welcome.
Yeah, we're glad you're on board.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Hey, see you.
Okay. So moving on to the next agenda item would be appointments for the 2022-25 UPDAC class.
Yes, I think you have the applications for Reba Daniels and Rachel Spencer. Staff's recommending we have the board approve these two. Just a little background, I think you received their applications. Staff actually appreciates getting them in kind of groupings. We believe we have at least 4 more that we're talking with that would come forward in July. Obviously, until we get their apps and everyone's said yes and they're approved by the board, don't know, but that's our plan forward. So we'd recommend these two. Just some background, just remind board, we always do try to look at neighborhoods that we don't often get the representation. We often do flyers in those neighborhoods using social media. We had the Jetty Roads Facebook promote it. I think even Urbana City Council mentioned it at our request when we went to visit with them. Our kickoff, as you know, starts in August, so that gives us another month to get the rest of the folks approved and start our orientation. That's another reason it takes a little while to get all the tours and get scheduled, so kind of grouping like this makes it a little bit easier. We can do them in batches. So again, if you had any questions, you can answer them.
Do we have a motion to approve the candidates for the UPDAC class?
I move to accept preliminary, or no, I'm sorry.
Number
It's
4.
Roman
Next
number
page.
4,
Under appointments,
next page.
There you go.
top of the,
Oh, okay. I move to approve the following candidates to serve 3-year terms as part of the 2022-2025 class of the Urbana Park Advisory Committee. The candidates are Reba Daniels and Rachel Spencer.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, if not, we'll do a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Great. All right, moving on to the UPDAC advisory report. We don't have a formal report, right? We just
we
have
don't have anyone here to present, but I believe we
We
have a
just have it
report
in
in the
the-
packet.
yeah.
We can answer any questions between staff and board attending.
If there are no questions, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Hmm.
And so is there any item on the consent agenda that any commissioner would like to discuss or pull from the consent agenda?
I move to approve all the action items on the consent agenda and accept all the information items listed on the consent agenda in an omnibus manner.
All right,
Second.
moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes. All right, moving on to the reports. We'll start with the financial reports.
Laura's up.
Yep.
Here we go. Page 1, sum 1 for us, labeled at the bottom. This is all funds less our capital improvements funds, and total revenues were $425,000, and total expenditures $532,000, almost $533,000. That gave us more expenditures over revenue, so we have negative $107,000 in that fund. That's probably pretty typical for the first month of the fiscal year. Page 2 is our capital improvements fund by itself. Again, total revenues here, $208,000. Total expenditures, $1,000. Again, indicative of our first month of the year. A lot of things coming in, still being posted to the previous fiscal year. This gave us a net revenues over expenditures of plus $207,000. Page 3, this is all funds district-wide. Please note that the ending fund balance for the district as a whole is $15,025,000. Behind that are our individual funds, the general fund, the rec fund, museum, and/or pool. Moving on to our treasurer's report. This report is the amount of cash that the district has on a single day, that is as of May 31st, 22. All 25 funds are listed here on this first page. It lists where all of our cash is invested for a grand total in the month of May of $17,478,000. Page 2 of the treasurer's report, the top section are all the amounts that we have in interest-bearing accounts. The total of the $17,479,000 of the total dollars on hand, $14,459,000 is out in investments at various interest rates ranging from as low as 0.3% to as high as 2.35%. The bottom section of this page 2 is our interfund loans. We did loan funds from REC to UIAC as we need to satisfy expenses, and we are awaiting the school district share of the payment. I think this is, again, another fairly common occurrence at this point. Once that payment is received, that interfund will be returned. And our last page is our disbursements, vendor payments. will match the paid accounts payable report in the consent agenda, and the total disbursements for the month of May was just over $650,000. I present the treasurer's report for you for approval.
I move we accept the treasurer's report.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, starting with Roger.
Aye.
Aye.
I,
All right. Treasurer's report has been accepted for audit.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the capital budget report.
Very good. And that's included in your packet as well. As per usual, when you see an asterisk, you've seen activity in that account. Again, May is our first year of our first month of our next fiscal year, so a lot of things are being still posted to fiscal year 22. Therefore, you may see asterisks in both the April 30th column, but you may also see something in the May 31st column. I have indicated in red on your report. It's kind of small. I promise I'll work better on that. Listing where any revenues and expenditures are that correspond with the asterisks. So starting with page 1, which is the 2019A budget, we received an invoice from FAIR for the Crystal Lake Park design for $3,995. And we also paid Farnsworth $37,729 for the health and wellness. So we had expenditures only on that one. In the 2022 budget, we did receive several tributes and donations. In the revenues section, $5,300 in total. And in the expenditures section, we have spent $1,760. Then in 2021 budget, the revenue is a correction from a journal entry from the previous month. But then in the expenditures, there were several of them. I think really the key ones was the upland design for $57.42, and Petrie Coon is for the outdoor learning pavilion. We paid $48,173 there. Under the Crystal Lake Parks improvement towards the bottom, we paid ILM for water treatment, $3,735. Do want to make a note under the contingency, the last section on this report, I did have a typo for the design. I believe I repeated the 3735 in error. It's actually 3801. My numbers are correct in the asterisks, but not in the documentation out to the side there.
that red is really helpful.
I agree.
I-
What's that?
yeah,
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah, that's-
Yeah.
that makes
I
it
love
so
a
much,
lot.
yeah.
Wonderful. I apologize for the size, but I promise I'll make that
Oh,
better.
no.
Okay.
No, it's so much better.
It certainly makes me easier for me to, share it with you too this way.
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
it.
we don't have to, those asterisks are small enough, they're hard to trace across in the line, so the fact that it's,
For sure.
yeah, that's great.
Good. I'm glad you guys like it. So moving on to the 2020 budget, we had no revenues in May, and the expenditures we had were for Upland Design there for $1,500, and to Henneman for the CO2 system for another, that was $1,100. And then our last active is the 2019 capital budget, where we received the final $200,000 for the Crystal Lake OSLAD. Yay!
Yay.
And we did have a tribute expenditure and another bill to Farnsworth under contingency for the health and wellness facility for $21,294. And there was no activity in the 2018 and 2017 budgets.
Good heavens.
And I will turn it over to Andy and to Derek.
Okay, I have quite a few pictures tonight, but I'll start with health and wellness. I don't have any actual pictures for health and wellness yet.
Okay.
We received the DD set from Farnsworth last Friday, and so that went to us and to Core. And for Park District, we'll begin to do an internal review and document all of our questions and comments. and then get back to Farnsworth, and we're going to have a full meeting with some of their leads on different specialty areas within their firm. So once we get our questions kind of outlined, we'll be able to talk to their people that are with electrical, people that work plumbing, and so we can be able to get a lot of questions answered and hopefully be very efficient with that process. The documents are also sent to CORE, and so that triggers their next round of cost estimation. So our understanding is that they should have updated cost estimates for us in 2 to 3 weeks. So that'd be by the first week of July. And in other pretty exciting news, Kara submitted the DCO paperwork this afternoon. And so what we've been told is that could be a month, up to 2 or 3 months of work, but we're optimistic that it might get expedited for us, and we'll be able to hear back and have a full 100% confirmation on those funds soon, and be ready to go out to bid later this summer. And now for some pictures. Let's see. I've got quite a few for the road project. There we go. So this was probably almost a month ago. This is relatively early in their work here, and this is them doing forms for the concrete curb. And this goes all around the portion of road that goes around the lake edge, but then also extends towards the Northwoods Pavilion, and then goes all the way to the bridge here that goes to below the outdoor pool. And that curb right now is about 8 inches. It will, once the final asphalt gets laid, it'll be a 6-inch curb. And so the contractors had a couple areas closed off. One of them is the Broadway entry to Crystal Lake Park towards the outdoor pool. And the other one is the lower east lake house lot. And so here's before the concrete crew was out to do their curb work. And this is after they had completed that same area of the curb. And this section here is the new, our revision to ADA parking. And I think it's kind of a cool picture because you can kind of see the change in grade that we were at, and then what they're going to be at. You can see how much higher the curb is over here and how much lower. So they're flattening this out to put us in compliance with ADA parking standards here. And then in that same lot, our additional parking as part of the project, you can kind of see the size of that here. So this is before they removed the material. This is just after the concrete crew had finished up. As of today, this is all dirt, and this has all been milled. We're getting some additional base repair that they had found after they milled that was needed, so we approved some of our contingency funds to be able to do that, and then they'll be able to come back in, do the base repair, and do the asphalt surfacing, and then ultimately the striping and open it back up. So I mentioned that the road has been closed from the Broadway entrance to the pool. And so this is them doing some milling of the parking lot 3, which is the large parking area below 901. And then here is that parking area after they...
Yeah, thumbs
Nice
up.
thumbs up.
Yeah.
I actually never even noticed that until this morning. That was a engineer from Fair Graham that snuck his thumbs up in there.
I think he was just talking. Yeah.
And then a couple cool pictures. I
love
really
those
enjoyed
pictures.
walking this road here. It was just like a perfect new path, super wide, basically all to yourself as you walk it.
Ready for a race.
And then looking towards the other direction here. And then, so now Blair, I don't think I'd shown a final image of the playground since it had opened, but it did open in the last month, and it's been a big hit. I've been very busy almost every time I'm there. In the last couple of weeks, the contractor's been out to work on some of the turf areas. This here is from about a month ago. It looks a lot better now, but it's still not up to where we would like it. And they were doing some additional site cleanup as well, and they had to paint the basketball lines, which they had completed. So they're pretty much done at the site, and Keith is in process for the challenge course as well, which I think should be done quicker than the playground. He had pre-assembled a lot of the pieces for the challenge course out at Hickory, and so he just needs to get his foundations and the base layered done. He'll be able to kind of get those up a lot quicker than assembling everything on site like you have to do with the playground here. And I wanted to show the website for our internal account for the Sutu wall and show you how we can interact with it. I'm having some technical issues with the website, but I had a backup plan where I could at least show some screenshots of some of the graphs that we can manipulate in there. We can change the time period, and we can also compare it to other Sutus around the world and see how ours gets used compared to them. So this is the first graph that we can see, and it's the top 5 games on Sutu, and then the number of hours that those games were played through this month. And this is a game, this isn't the total hours. So there's a game called Total that almost had 8 hours, which has been the most popular option every month I've seen it at this point. And there's actually a library of about 20 to 25 different games, and we can select games that we want to be the main focus if someone was actually there pushing the button, and it would cycle through different games. Or you can be on the app and select from all the different games that are available. And then another graph that we can get, so here you can see here's a Sutu in Urbana, all active Sutus, and this is our daily play hours for the month of May. Now this was pretty much the first month that people started to get going on it. As I've been looking in June, some of these red bars are actually higher than the gray. So we're actually starting now, as people, school's out, people are getting more aware of the board. In June, we're actually relatively close to this. And I think on Saturday or Fridays we're exceeding.
It is.
And then you can also, so now that was by day, you can also check it by the amount of daily play hours and how much use it was getting on specific days. And so we had a peak use, it looks like around the 29th or 30th. Looks like maybe the Saturday, Sunday here. And then you can see how many hours are actually being played through each day. And then we also get an email every month from Yelp, which is the company for Sutu. And it gives us summaries, so a total amount of hours for May. So we had almost had 30 hours. And then number of burned calories. And then it gives some little games that were played as well. So it's kind of a really cool feature. It's fun to play with. I was hoping to be able to show you how you can manipulate a little bit and get other information as you have questions, but I'm working through a firewall thing with our internet to be able to do that. So other than that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Pretty cool. Pick up.
All right. No questions for Andy? All right. Well, thank you very much for that. I always appreciate the photos. Moving along to the executive director's report.
All righty, we've got a couple of things to go over. As we tend to do when the pool's open, we like to start out with updates on Crystal Lake Park Family Aquatic Center. So we'll ask Corky for any updates, and Derek if there's any operational comments or things of concern.
So, first of all, I went by the pool tonight at 6 o'clock. On the way by there, I seen that there was 10 open lots, or open parking spots. in the main lot, and there was 30 cars in the overflow lot. So it's a
Wow.
good evening, of course, with the weather the way it is. Not so great for some of our programming, but from a pool standpoint, it's doing really well. I've got 3 years of numbers here, just to kind of give a comparison from Memorial Day to where we're at now. So the numbers I'm giving you are same time frame during 21 and then during 19. Okay, so in 2019 we had sold 742 memberships. In 2021, 807, and I know this sounds awful coincidental, but in 2022, 807 memberships. Visits by our members in 19 was 1,373. Visits in 2021 was 616. So that's people who have passes and they go in and they scan their pass. And so far this year, up through yesterday, we have 1,267 swipes. Daily, we've had 7,015 visits in 19, 6,353 in 2021, and 6,195 in 2022. So total visits, 2019, 8,388. Last year in 2021, we had 6,969, and this year we're 7,462 visits. So dollar-wise, and when I say dollars, I'm talking about our admission, our membership money, our rental money, and our vending money. So in 2019, we were at 88,274. 2021, we were at 88,737. And as of to date, we're at 99,872. So far, a good start, staying pretty consistent, which is good. We've had some days where pool wasn't so great weather-wise, so,
Yeah.
you know, I'd say it's more normal. I mean, I know we're really hot right now, but it's not like it's been really, really hot, so happy with those numbers the way they are at the moment. Staffing wise, obviously we have enough staff working on board right now that we're able to keep our hours going and everything moving smooth. We've got another class of 12 more guards that's coming up next week, so we continue to look for more guards and hire more people, but so far so good.
I really like the new equipment containers. They're sturdy, a lot easier to move around.
Great.
Yep, good choice.
Kind of helps when we have some hot weather to kick it off. Many years it's cold, rainy, and
Yeah.
kind of a slow start to the season, so a little bit.
Well, I wanted to give the 2019 numbers because I think that kind of gives you the comparison. Before
Absolutely.
there was a
Pandemic.
a pandemic, and now
Oh, yeah.
kind of returning back to where it was. So maybe even stronger than we were before. So
Right. Well, maybe a combination of people missing the pool and hot weather and just chance to come back, but we're ready for it and excited.
yeah. And like all of our events so far this summer or activities, the outdoor activities have really been booming as far as people coming out.
Derek, any operational things to add or anything of concern or?
As far as the outdoor pool goes, it was probably our smoothest opening ever. We usually, it's a real rush at the end, just trying to get open. Went pretty smooth this year. I think, at this point, Jake, Joseph's sort of right-hand man, is very skilled and adept. He's actually covering for Joseph right now, and we're not having any issues. Calvin came over from the pool management team. He's an aspiring electrician. He's been great, just a sponge. So we've got a real good team. We for the R&R fund, we did some more tile repair. You remember we had a big tile repair last year. It had been closed for a year, and we think that was part of it. This year, a smaller volume of repair, and everything we repaired last year is holding, so that's good news. We did a lot of concrete repair on the deck as well. We're just seeing the age of the pool, more and more cracks, and so we brought in a specialty concrete finisher to repair a lot of those cracks using a couple different products. So outdoors, I think, doing quite well. The indoor, it is drained. In the process of draining it, we lost one of the lift pumps, so that's going to be a fairly expensive repair. Starting to show its age. The pool pack is continuing to challenge us. It's a relatively new pool pack. We've got sort of the, I guess I'd call him the pool pack whisperer, the specialist who commissioned it, coming back tomorrow to take a look at it. He thinks that some of the initial design was off, and he's trying a few things to document that and determine if it's actual. But he is the national expert on pool pack, and so we're very fortunate to have him. And also, the school district has a HVAC specialist on staff who's been learning alongside Joseph, who's going to be there tomorrow and help us troubleshoot a few things. So, yeah, I think the indoor, we're continuing to just fight everything. It seems like the UV system's down right now, so it's a good thing we've got the summer to catch up on a few of these things. Yeah.
Right, will the pool pack be run in a different way since the pool is empty? Since there's no water? I mean, was that?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely, yeah. And the compressors have actually been off, from since the spring, and so the same gentleman from the school made some changes to some of the ductwork based upon Tony Gentile. He's from Southeastern Heating and Cooling's recommendations, and so Tony's going to be doing some test and balancing to check things. Then we're going to top off the refrigerant, and the hope is at that point all the compressor valves are going to be operational and be in good shape, and we can go back to operating it. But because it's going to be closed, we won't have it at full bore.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I've had a number of people suggest to me that we have a pool in the new fitness and wellness center.
Mm-hmm.
And when I stopped laughing, I explained to them that a pool is essentially just a hole in the ground that you pour money into.
Mhm.
And probably we weren't in the business of making another hole to pour money into. Because I mean, it is, yeah. And then it's the nature of the beast. It's not that we're not doing a good
Right.
job. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
that's how.
Part of
pools-
recreation
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
costly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I'd say they both are, indoor and outdoor,
Yep.
but I think with indoor, it's just exacerbated because it's a
Oh,
year-round
yeah,
operation.
exactly. Yeah, because you have so much atmosphere to have to contend with. Yep.
Anything else on aquatics? Great, thanks. Well, we'll continue on. Next, I wanted to make sure that you all knew you're invited to the upcoming Youth Summer Theater, Newsies. Matt Lewis wanted to be sure that everyone was invited. He's got just a little handout I'm passing around.
Cool.
If you'd like a ticket, just email Matt. He'll get you squared up. I think the performance dates are July 21st through the 24th. So please
Fun at Parkland.
feel free to join us for this exciting production. So we're very excited about that. Last item I really wanted to spend the most of my time talking about is the Wandel Sculpture Garden 25th anniversary. As you all know, we have a lot of major projects going on, super exciting stuff. Probably in a different cycle, the 25th anniversary would be our premier program. We would spend a lot of time talking about, promoting, and making sure everybody knows every single detail about. But we've got other bigger projects that are kind of superseding. So wanted to spend a little time tonight talking about what we've been working on, some things we're going to be talking about and moving toward. As you know, we're working with the arts and culture team to put together kind of a year-long celebration for the 25th. So we've got the concept of starting at Jazz Walk 2022 in September, coming up, I think September 9th is the Friday night event, to Jazz Walk 2023. Each month, there's all kinds of activities, at least one activity that's related to art and culture. And so we'll be celebrating each month and then taking those opportunities at Jazz Walk while we're at Meadowbrook to really promote some of the sculptural achievements that we've achieved. So just want to talk a little about that. Some of the budget items, just want to talk a little about the financing. Laura's passed out 2 budget sheets that show what's remaining in the Hall Fund and also the Rosenshine Fund. Those would be the 2 primary funds that we recommended to the Finance Study Group that we would help support the program. So we've got a couple of levels of spending. One would be our normal budgets. So for example, if staff is already budgeted for, let's say, the Great Outdoors, their budget would likely take care of that. But anything that's in addition, we certainly want to find, resources to help, offset that. we'll probably stick fairly close to the program budgets, but we do have a couple of, opportunities. Both of the events that we'll be inviting, folks out, we may want to talk with the foundation about, supporting that. I've already let the foundation know that we've got some big event ideas, that we want to work closely with the event committee on how we put that together. So they're on board and excited as well. We have a couple of other expenditures. We want to bring in some pieces of art for the exhibit. So we have anywhere from, I'd say, 8 to 12 different artists that have already indicated they're interested on board. Some have already committed on what we call the front end, which would be the first year, and we're kind of using that concept of friends and family, which is asking all of our sculptors that have helped us succeed to come back if they'd like and offer a piece. So we got a lot of responses. I think people are excited about that. We're bringing in a couple of special pieces. We have previous artists that were, I think some of our first artists that we opened with are interested in coming back. So we have 3 pieces of art coming from New York. Both of these artists, John Isherwood and Harry Gordon, are very accomplished sculptors. I'd say John is pretty famous. He's internationally known. So he's kind of the big wow, if you would. And we've been working with John for over a year to try to secure some of his art that's in New York City right now. He's got 8 pieces on Broadway Avenue at various intersections. And they're stone carved, marble, very beautiful. They're botanicals, they're all flowers. And so when I saw the work and connected, and he said, well, maybe I might have something that could come to Urbana after the show. I'm sure he's trying to sell them. Some are going to galleries, but there are 2 that are slated to come to Urbana. So we would have them on loan. We're very excited. They're really special. They've had a Vogue cover shoot with some of the sculptures. So we have some pictures of Vogue models sitting on the sculptures, and it's pretty exciting, his quality of work. So that's something we're working on. We have a couple of other artists that'll be coming in this front end, and then we'll probably bundle the rest of the group, what I'm calling the back end, so that we have art now and later. One of our first pieces could come as soon as June 30th. So we're working with Derek and his staff on getting a pad and trying to be ready for that. Did want to spend a little time talking about a special thing we wanted to do. We had talked with the finance study group about this. I think there was general support in the idea of making a presentation and getting the budget and the numbers all together. But we did want to recommend purchasing a piece of sculpture. So we do have the piece on the wall here that you can see. I'll flip the light out. This is a dual piece. It's called American Bison. First piece was created. Tim Somerville is the artist. It's currently owned by Rob Vermillion, who's a friend of mine I know, lives out in Muhammad. That's his studio in the background. Both pieces are available. Rob is offering them to the Park District for sale for $18,000. One of the things I think we were interested in doing is because the way they're fabricated in this sort of porous fashion. I think Rob was interested, that's him right there on the right. He's also an artist and an electrician, in adding LED lighting to the pieces so that they would have a glow that emanates out of them. The calf was cast later, it was a second piece added. The Decatur Zoo hosted both of these pieces last. They had the mother first, and then he cast the baby, and it was set out in Decatur, and I talked to the director there, and it was a really big deal. They had tons of people coming, there was a lot of media. People lined up, for a long distance just to get photos. So I think it has that sort of endearing quality to it. It's made of rebar in this really creative fashion, very sturdy. That's Kelly White, the executive director of 40 North. Her, Janet Sosby, Derek, and I went out to visit and inspected the pieces. I think we found them in very good order. Obviously, where they're located, you can notice there's horns on the adult, and the little baby is just adorable. We would want to have a very secure location, somewhere highly visible, somewhere with electricity. So we have some ideas in mind. But what we would propose doing is getting a proposal from Rob on what it would take to buy and then fabricate the electrical. He would oversee the work. So it'd be a turnkey operation, and we'll get a final cost and come back to the board with recommendation to purchase and upgrade. So that would be an example of an expense that would come out of the Rosenshine Fund or the Hall Fund. Both of those 2 funds, which you see before you, are dedicated sculpture funds, can only be spent. That you can see the hall fund was a kind of a residual amount that was left over as kind of a retirement fund that was set up when Robin Hall retired. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, it looks like there's only $10 in that budget.
Look down
I thought it was
further.
3,000 is what I.
Okay, so that's the whole, okay, sorry, I'm
Yes.
just trying to, okay,
I
it's
think I have-
3260, so 370.
Oh, yeah, look at the bottom right.
Yeah, bottom right.
That's our magic number.
Yep,
Okay.
3260. And
And
then,
the other one's coming from the foundation,
Correct, Rosenstein.
Rosenstein's foundation.
yes. And I talked with the foundation, just, let them know about the Wandel event coming up. The Rosenstein Fund, as you know, is dedicated. There is a 10-year window on that. We did review the agreement. We're probably going into year 4, so we definitely want to make sure that we're spending it down. I don't doubt somebody's coming after us, but certainly we want to honor, the family. And I know I met with Catherine, the partner of, Barack, and, her message was, this is not an endowment fund. What we loved is the art. We want to see art. Don't
Yep.
sit on it. Don't use it as an endowment. If you get a chance to loan or purchase, please do. So we want to, let me say it this way. We've never had a gift like that ever. I'm not sure we'll ever get another one. I would suggest we use it wisely, and this might be a good investment so that we have something long-term to show for this fund. The other ones, like I said, the ones from New York, just the transportation alone for these 3 pieces could run us around 7,000. So at least give you an idea, and then the stipends.
Ouch.
Another part of the discussion we talked about today, because we had the art and culture discussion, we met with the curators, which will be Janet Sosby, Kelly White, Robin Hall, myself, Derek Liebert, and Keith Eworks. We've identified the pieces, we'll locate them, and then put an installation plan together to get them installed at the right location. Again, some will come in this front end time, and others may come on the back end side. But the whole idea is to try to bring new art to Urbana, celebrate the artists that really put us on the map. I think what I shared with the foundation is really this is an opportunity to thank donors, set us up for marketing our art program, get potential public and donors that don't know how deep we are working in the arts. So it could be a new audience, if you will, and a new focus. So as far as the event, looking back, I think things we'd want to do is, look to our early founders and leaders, board, Robin Hall, the Wandel family, as a look back, and then certainly take the next year as an opportunity to look forward. Where do we hope to go? Who could we work with? What's some of the exciting art? For the Boneyard Arts Festival, bring in a really couple of good artists for our, Boneyard Day. So there's some of the things we're working, in addition to the monthly events that all of the rec staff, will be participating. So it's pretty exciting. I would say it's akin to, our 100th celebration in the sense it's a little more low-key. We don't have 100 years of history, but we certainly have 25. And working with the visual arts, it's something that I think the community will respond well, and we can probably have some lasting components that'll propel us. Lastly, I want to mention, we're still working with the Wandel family. We're hoping that the Legacy Circle could still be a part of Meadowbrook. So the door's open, we're working with donors. Some things we probably need to realize, construction costs have gone up. We just have to be sensitive on the donor side. If there was a need to take a pause, or, hey, can we come at this later when prices might be a little more favorable, certainly we can work on that. On the alternative, if we're ready to go, we're ready to go, and we'd like to see that project move forward. So we're working with everything we have to try to get that into place. The last piece that we've talked about, just don't know where it'll be nailed down. We have the sculpture interpretive piece that's slated for the Hickman Walk and the Short Loop at that intersection. And it's part of our interpretive pieces, like we interpret what's happening at Meadowbrook and the other locations. That's a piece that we want to get some more cost information. It may be a project we want to try to move forward with. We do need to get better signage and recognition of our donors. It's embarrassing to me personally and to our staff. It's what we have. We have a vision for something better, and we're reluctant to put something in the in-between and spend money and time getting something upgraded. So we'd really like to move to the interpretive, where we'll have the stone benches, the names carved into it. So again, that might be a good conversation to look at with the Brown Fund. It's a much larger fund with the board's discretion. The principal could be approached. You know, we're talking probably something, I'm reluctant to say numbers with bids. I'll hold on that till we get some updates. But it would be an affordable project, and complete that, honor donors, you know, that have given sculpture, and give us that interpretive piece that is, I think, desperately missing. Our last partner that we're working with that might have some interest, we just have to sit down and see, you know, what we could work out. You know, Clark Lindsay's interested in doing something with their new entrance. We've talked to them about seating and art and maybe functional art. I think they're saying yes to that. It would probably need to come toward the end of their project. I'm sure they're being challenged with cost increase, doing work right now, but that's another possible, you know, addition. So I wanted to give a general overview, see if there's questions we could answer, and then we hope to come back specifically with more information on the acquisition, what that would take to acquire that, get it situated, have it lit. Again, it doesn't have to be lighted. It was constructed without lights, but I think after we visited with it and talked, you know, of what that could look like, we're at least interested enough to get a proposal and see what that could look like. So that's sort of our plan, the level of spending we're likely to have, and from which funds that will come out. I should mention, often with larger events, we spend a lot of time trying to find sponsors or donors or others. We're probably neck deep in donor stuff with health and wellness. We, you know, can't really envision going back out fundraising, you know, for an event. We do want to approach Audubon as a potential sponsor. We've had a couple of conversations with them. They're a large contracting company. They could do everything from helping to make bases to repairing anything or moving large heavy pieces or giving us assistance. So we do want to, we have a draft proposal staff put together. We want to sit down and talk to them about being the event sponsor. We know they've done it for the Peoria Park District when they kicked off their sculpture park. Obviously, I think they only had 3 or 4 pieces, you know, that they were working on, but nonetheless, they did that, and we'd like to approach them. They have an Urbana office right next to King Park, so we would like to see what they could do. I think what they're saying is more than likely we could work something out. It could be a series of reduced cost, maybe we buy some services, but I think they'll work with us, is the hope. But I don't think we'll have time to go out and find lots of other sponsors to offset, you know, some of the costs. So I think that's why we're recommending there won't be a lot of ancillary costs. They'll all be art related. They're probably most likely to be covered with our budgets or out of one of these funds. So that's kind of the overall. And again, typically we'll come in with a whole budget laid out with every activity. We're kind of pulling this together as we go. I think the approach is solid, but just the details are still being worked out. So I'll pause and see if there's questions with that. And our hope is to continue this followed up immediately, so we get working. You know, if there was any chance of having a couple of pieces in place by the Jazz Walk, that would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's what we're working on right now, and I think we'll have a pretty good chance of getting a few pieces there.
Are we thinking about maybe using this as an opportunity to think about how we recognize not only the sculpture, but also the artists, and using, I'm just thinking like, this is one idea that came, QR codes, right, to link to more information about the piece. I think that could be a really helpful, or if we have a website that's talking in more depth about what we're doing and all the events and linking that.
I think that's
Because right now,
definitely
usually we just
needed.
see the piece's name and the date it
Right,
was created, right?
Yes. Some things we've talked about, we have designed concept for new standards, meaning the sign posts that would identify, that might have the ability to do the QR codes and things like that in a little more permanent fashion. Certainly we could go to the other end, maybe we move to a yard sign approach for this event. There's that Morton Arboretum does that when they have their shows, and there are QR codes on them, and you can get a lot of good information. And so that's,
A little bit over my head, but we were mentioned QR codes, and I was in core team, my manager's meeting last week. We just bought a QR code software program that makes the QR codes for you. Mainly in order of being more green and, not having as much pamphlets and paper. And so we have the ability to do more, and we're working on different ways of doing more. So this could be a good way to, intertwine the two ideas.
I would underline also, though, having better access to the sculptures in terms of the website, maybe even where you've got a button that you can go directly to those when you come on the website. You have to go through a couple of different buttons to be able to get to that, and you don't get a lot of information about the sculptures themselves. So I think that would be important.
Good thoughts.
I think that'd be interesting, especially like, as we continue forward and rotate through sculptures, like having a catalog or like a library of all the things that we've had over time. would be
Ooh,
Well, that's an
that's a good
interesting
idea.
idea, yeah.
That's a
Then-
great idea.
right, then it's like this running tape of like, these are all these artists that we've worked with, and then it's just a more robust way of, we can show off the art, but the artists need to get their credit as well.
Absolutely.
Right, and it reminds people that we're not static in the pieces of art that we have, that it's,
Right, and also, people will not know necessarily if we are able to secure these pieces from New York, like the level of notoriety, unless we help educate them.
notoriety sounds.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're not in that art space, in that art world, it may not, may not know. And so I think that's important, right? That's what's making it special.
I think that it's not. I don't think that QR codes are a big ask. I think that at the end of the day, it's becoming more and more commonplace. Lots of restaurants just kind of have an expectation of scan the QR code to get our menu. So it's something that I believe will probably be commonplace throughout everything. So
I like the idea of having all the past sculptures as well,
Yeah.
because I don't know how many times that I run into somebody who said, the last time I was here, thus and such was here. Where has that gone? Or
Yeah.
it's a part of people's history with the sculpture garden and with Meadowbrook Park in general.
and we could even go as far as having information about like if these sculptures are leaving us or wherever,
Right.
and they may go someplace else, we might be able to say like, oh, like this is no longer part of our collection, but you can find it at blah blah blah. So.
Yep.
This seems like a great student internship project as well. I mean, seriously, like,
Yeah.
students who are interested in museums work, and like, this is
Yeah.
all about our, creating collections and things like that. So, or even information science folks. I've known information science students who've done sort of more curatorial, museum type of work as well. So,
Good.
and we happen to have a really great information science
That's
school
good.
right here. So, anyway, just something to think about.
Yep. No, those are all really good thoughts, things we hope to have in place. Again, I just want to mention, typically we'd put all of our time and energy into it. My sense is everyone is really excited about this. They want to spend a lot of time at this because it's really neat and fun. We've got to sort of measure out how much we can focus. So I think we can pull it together, but I just want to emphasize all staff are working on this event. They're all taking a piece of it. This is just the visual art piece. I think we'll be very excited when we see the whole layout. I think we're gonna have Janet come and talk to us soon about what we have in mind. So I think you'll get a better idea of the specifics. So the art is probably, I'm gonna say, relatively easy, to connect with, but everything else just takes a lot of, time and energy to get in place. But I think we're getting there. And we had a very good meeting today. Just gonna keep working till we get there. All right, well, that's all I had in my report. Can answer any other questions.
All right, well, moving along, our president is not here, but there is a president's report, so just making sure you're aware of the upcoming meeting, and I guess I can go over it. Just reminders, we have neighborhood nights on Wednesdays, yoga in the park on Saturdays, starting this weekend. Jetty Roads Day is June 25th at King Park. Play days in the park new Fresh Crew volunteer stewardship, and there's a Power of the Parks 5K. And then a reminder that we will not have a study session in July,
Correct.
and we'll have our regular board meeting on July 12th.
There's also Tai Chi in the park.
Did I miss that?
Yeah, it's
It
not.
was not here.
It's not
Oh,
on
you're
there.
right, there is Tai Chi
Yeah.
in the park. I should have known that, but I haven't been to Tai Chi in a while, so.
Yeah.
All right, moving along to the liaison reports. Roger, do you have anything to report from the
Well,
finance?
we've already talked extensively about the 25th anniversary of the Wandel Sculpture Garden. We have already looked at the where we are on the playground. We did talk about health and wellness, nothing really new at that point till we find out what happens with DCEO and then ARPA. So we discussed all that. You know as much as the Finance Study Group has talked about.
All right, and for the UPD Policy Study Group, we have not met, and we will meet again as needed. Urbana Parks Foundation. Roger.
Foundation met yesterday. We found out that Natalie Kenny Marquez, who has been our marketing consultant for I don't know how many years, but a number of years, has resigned. She wants to spend more time with family, and so the foundation needs to find someone else. We voted to work with Sarah Cizian, I don't remember how to pronounce her name,
Close, very close.
of Elevate Communications. It's a kind of a unique situation because she would be working remote. So some members of the foundation were a little hesitant with that, so we have a shorter term agreement that we want to have with her. The thing that excited me the most is that they're going to be forming a marketing committee that will have members of the foundation, members of the Park District staff, and they are looking for more integration of foundation marketing with Park District marketing, and that can only be a good thing. So that went well. It was a good meeting.
And the UPDAC Planning Study Group.
Nothing yet, I believe, that.
We need to meet in July, so just so you know, we'll be reaching out to set up a meeting to get our planning set.
Okay. So there was no old business, so we'll go ahead and move on to new business. The first action is to receive the FY 22-23 combined budget and appropriation ordinance.
You know, we have the combined budget. No actions required at this time. Can answer any questions you might have, or if Laura had anything else to add. It's for your review and part of our process.
There are no questions on that. We'll move on to item B, which is, I believe, Corky to present the CUSUR 2022-23 program budget.
Great, thanks, Corky.
Yep, so, Camille apologized, he was planning on coming, he had another, work engagement that he had to go to, so, I'm just gonna, everybody's seen the budget, he did kind of give me some pointers from staff, but I think I'm gonna go probably more freehand on this, but I do, want to talk about, we were fully staffed, which was great, and, it's been a while since we had that going for us, so, but, our manager, Grace Tizier, had a child and came back from her leave and was going to stay home with her child. So now we're back in the market for a manager. We do have 2 in-house employees that are coordinators. there's 3 coordinators, but there's 2 of them that are interested in the job. We're waiting another week or 2 to see what outside, people come forward. And I'll keep you up to speed with that, but that's one of the other, challenges with getting the manager here, because right now they're all kind of taking on more roles to keep the ship moving. So, some highlights that I wanted to bring out in the budget is obviously they have the same problem everyone's having with staffing and, increasing and part-time wages. You know, we're all seeing that. I think for this area in particular, it's a challenge not only across the board. So we have camps, we need inclusion aids that have, very few people applying. So far, so good. We haven't had any situations where we've had to say, no, we don't have an aid. But be aware, we're low on inclusion aids, and, there could be a scenario sometime this summer where we have some challenges with that. Some of the things that we're doing for that is working with our camp staff, our camp leaders, in scenarios where behavior could be possibly handled in-house versus having an aide. So I think I don't want to say it's easy, but a lot of times a parent will say they need an aide, and so we get an aide. Well, probably we'll end up doing a little more evaluation. Do they really need an aide, or is this something that our staff can manage? And that's in order to, 1, we want everybody to be safe, but number 2, we have a low number of aides, and we need to we don't want to turn anybody away. So we're definitely not going to get into an unsafe situation, but I just want you to know that there's a little bit different process than normal. With going on those same lines, here at the Urbana Park District, the last few years, we've been increasing some program fees based on minimum wage moving up. So we kind of took a gradual 2% approach. Well, CPD has not been doing that, and so now they made a 10% increase.
Whoa.
So, just want you to be aware that that's another challenge that they're dealing with. Other items that are a little bit different. Most of the budget's pretty much the same as normal, but other items is CUSR has its own building now, so they have a few more expenses where at Hayes they would split the budget between special rec and senior programming. Well, now it's all for special rec. So that's added a few more costs, and also they're cleaning, right? They call them building service workers. They're having a challenge finding those, full-time positions. But
Surprise.
again, that's all on special recs budget to cover now because it's their facility. So those are some of those items.
Corky, is that the reason then that they're showing for an actual deficit? Is that right? Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Yes,
They're showing a deficit for 2023?
Yeah, what was it, 100 and some thousand? Is that what I
80.
thought?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. Well, and part of it is, that was gonna be my next point.
Oh, sorry,
With,
jumped the gun.
the participants, they're not as quick to come back, right? They're still comfortable, they're starting to increase, and people that always come are starting to come back to programming, but, so that it's been a little challenging, especially with that population and the needs that are there, and the one-on-one attention. They just don't feel comfortable being in an indoor environment as quickly as others.
Yeah, they need to be more careful, yeah.
Another change is, and we've struggled with this for years, is the transportation. One, you can never find drivers, right? But 2, the boundaries in which Champaign goes and Urbana goes has always been a challenge. So as they start gaining participation back, they're gonna start offering transportation periodically for certain programs, not every program.
Uh-huh.
And the reasoning being is, I think they're having a huge challenge finding drivers to do it. Used to have the full-time staff were the drivers, but then you still have to get people to, you know, part-time staff to back that, because you don't just one person go and that's it. So
Yeah,
there's gotta be
yeah.
taking care of the bus, the kids, or participants. Yeah, I think that's the big takeaways that we're challenged with at the moment. Like I said, the part-time staff's a big one. They probably struggle more than any other department. Takes a special kind of person that does those kinds of jobs, and they're slowly gaining numbers, but they're still a little behind.
Yeah.
Did want to mention, we've had discussion too about a future capital improvement project to the building. As you know, we're at this CUS Recreation Center in Centennial Park. Sangamon Drive is right out in front of the building, but it's really not a ideal setup. Participants park across the street and have a considerable distance to get to the building. So one of the plans we'd like to look at least is, can we create a separate drop-off right up to the door of the building? So we'll be looking at that. Certainly that's a new cost, something be probably expensive. We need some cooperation from the Champaign School District, probably some right-of-way to cross, a little bit on their property. So that's sort of the big capital project we're going to be talking about and working on. If we could do it and achieve it, I think our access and ability to get people in and out of the facility would be much, much greater, and probably take away a few barriers, So remember, every little thing that, well, no big deal. It could be a huge barrier to somebody that's coming to us or their families. So we're hopeful we could look at that.
One really positive that we've been talking about this for years too, and we're finally able to do it now that we have the bicentennial building for special rec, is the adult day programs, and it's really starting to take off.
Oh, good.
Which is, we've always thought it would be great, but when we had senior programs and special rec
Yeah, there wasn't
programs
space
at
for it.
Hayes, there's just not
Yep.
space to
Yep.
do it. So that's a new program they've been able to bring to fruition because they have their own facility.
Mm-hmm.
Very popular, and I think will grow.
Yeah.
This this business about the drop-off just reinforces what I have learned just recently from Sarah's comments with the park and the ADA, and just the general common sense reality of how to do it. And I that's something that's missing, and it was obviously missing when they redid that building. I mean, because it's, the joke in our family was, why didn't you think of that before we left? Which involved car trips. But it's the same sort of thing. Why didn't they think of that? Why didn't they? Because it's such a common sense kind of thing to have these folks have to be transported across a relatively busy street because their activity center is just down the road to the west. And we need to push and keep in mind that we need to find sort of a Sarah-esque person in whatever project we do, just to have them, spend an hour looking over the plan and saying, well, maybe we could do a bit better here, and maybe what about parking there, and what about, have you thought about how far they're going to have to? I mean, that's really important if we're trying to get people to really belong here who have a challenge to be there. Yeah.
Great.
I think that's a great point. And I think from the first time we did the audit for ADA several years back to now, we're using Jennifer and then the Sarah comments. More, I think because there was the law where you had to be ADA, I think a lot of our mindsets were on, you need to be ADA compliant.
Exactly.
but your mindset needs to be on, is that practical?
Mhm.
And is it ADA compliant?
Right, exactly.
I mean, I'm just as guilty as anybody of having that, changing that mindset versus ADA or
Right, and
practical.
I think that the I'm gonna call them the Sarah person. The Sarah person has everyday lived experience with that group of people. And that makes all the difference in the world, because they know what works and what doesn't work. They don't say, oh, well, this will work. Well, of course, lots of things will work, but they're not the best, or they're not even close to the best. Because the folks envisioning that don't have direct hands-on experience. Because I mean, I think that's just such a critical issue.
It is. Well, we certainly have a lot of room to improve and grow, but I think these are helpful comments because it makes us think about it before we leave home.
Yeah, and it's not a criticism of what we've done, because we're doing a really good job. And
Right.
I think we're doing a better
Correct.
job. And, as Meredith will, I'm sure, attest, you get out of the country and you realize ADA, that, most countries have nothing, have zero. I mean, there's almost like there are barriers put up on purpose. So it's not that we're not doing a good job, but with a very little bit of time, we could do a whole lot better.
I noticed in the NRPA magazine that came out, I received mine today, but we had a playground, a special attachment, but they're talking about universal design. So we've kind of come full circle 40 years ago from barrier-free design, universal. But that really gets at that experiential, not
Yep.
just what's a letter of the law and the angle, but can you use it? Is it, does it make sense?
Right,
Right.
and it benefits more people
It
than,
does.
than just
All
a
of us.
specific group, like
Exactly.
everyone benefits.
So it's a better
That's-
approach.
That's the point, yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. So you have,
Right, right.
a military veteran with, considerable, how do they say it, mobility issues. Well, I mean, they don't come, that's not the top of our mind when we think of ADA.
Right,
But those folks are out there.
sure.
And
Or
they're-
somebody coming on a skateboard. Are we ready to walk on them? So it's really everything.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, walking up an incline is much easier than walking up steps.
Correct.
I can
Yep.
attest to that.
Ramps
Yeah.
over
So just for
stairs.
everyone, right?
Yeah,
For everyone.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
Good points about that. Fine-tune planning and design of,
Right.
Is it usable? Is it,
I-
intuitive?
I would like to get back to the comment that was made about that salaries went up much higher, that they didn't do a gradual step, but a
Right.
jump. Are we done with that at this point, or do we still have another big jump to do? Because I'm looking at the deficit and thinking, is this built into the budget for some years to come? Or are we at a point where we can begin to catch up and get ahead?
Well, I'd like to think we're catching up, although we know that inflation's outpacing, wage increases, in general. But I think we're in much better position. Just also, wanted to mention too, if you hadn't heard, Joe DeLuce has announced his retirement. I think he's also moved it up. Now it's December 31st. I
Okay.
believe that's a new date. So,
Oh, I thought
those are
that's when it
things we
was, huh?
probably want to talk with a new team. How do we avoid those kind of things if at all possible? My assumption is, Roger, just the, rapid inflation kind of took everyone and catching up and getting things in place quick enough but my assumption is they've done what they can do now, so I wouldn't expect any more great leaps unless things change dramatically.
My sense is we were a little more ahead of the curve.
I think we do a little better. I like how we do increases.
Yep.
It's recommended
Yep, yep.
to keep on them a little more steady, and, the benefit is you don't have the surprise. I guess the other benefit is you don't have to deal with it.
Right.
Yep.
So you have to
Yep.
deal with it, but I think most people recommend steady, as a way to get people used to it, and
I can speak for Urbana Park District, that
I hope so.
with our fees, I mean, we were looking at the 2% because we were going, gonna go from whatever, $9 or $10 when minimum wage started to go up, to knowing we're gonna have to get to 15. So I continue to see probably that 2% plus also not knowing what inflation is.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
You know, the pandemic effect of people working and what you gotta pay to get people here, so I don't know for sure what lies ahead next year, but I can say that, you know, if we stay steady, it's probably still a 2%, cause minimum wage is going up.
Just wanted to thank Jamil and Corky for the fine job they do overseeing the staff. They work very well together. They represent both of our districts and all of our special needs populations. Certainly the whole board does, but they have a very active role and are available to the staff.
What's Jamil's title?
He's a director of
It's
recreation,
changed, yeah.
Director of Recreation, okay.
Yeah,
but they have,
yeah. Different-
there's 9 different
Yeah,
directors
right.
between operations and.
Right, right.
Right.
Well, it turns out he's a knitter. I can't tell you how excited I am that Jamil's a knitter. And so we've been talking about some cooperation. So I wanted to know how to get easier, you know, the right thing to call him is really what I just
Yeah,
wanted to say.
he started in the arts.
Yeah.
world.
Yeah,
At Champaign, he was in charge of Springer to begin with and all the arts.
Yeah.
program.
yeah, and evidently he runs a sort of a clothing handout thing.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
He runs a kind of a clothing handout thing. I mean, it has a name, but he carries some of the stuff around with him in his car. So if he sees folks who think need something, yeah.
I talk to him weekly and did not know that about
I
him.
didn't know that.
Well, see,
either.
that's because we both hang up our clothes on the clothesline. I mean, he likes hanging up clothes on the clothesline and he knits. So, you know, it's just, yeah, it's that special channel.
All right.
Neat.
Do we have a motion to accept the preliminary FY 22-23 budget?
I move to accept the preliminary fiscal year 2022-2023 budget for the Champaign-Urbana Special Recreation Program as described in Exhibit A.
Second?
That's been moved in second. Any further discussion on the matter? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, since we have no new business from the consent agenda, we can move on to any comments from the commissioners.
In reading over this, I wondered if we should look into compiling a list of all the no-cost benefits the school district gets from us. There was something somewhere about all of the times they had used the nature center, I think, for meetings.
Mhm.
Right. So, I mean,
Just keep in mind, we can do that.
yeah, I mean,
I guess I also want to make sure that commissioners know for youth basketball, all of our practices are it's kind of.
right. But my suspicion is that the school board, I mean, the school district obviously knows,
Mhm.
but the school board might not have a sense of how much they the district is relying on the arrangement that they have with the park district. I mean, it wouldn't hurt.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Is my-
And I can put that together pretty easily for you.
Good. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do it for me. I mean, I just think it's something that we need to have
Yeah.
in our,
As we
The ready?
discussed.
Yeah.
yes,
So the whole-
yes,
everybody
yes,
knows that, right?
exactly. And the more I read about that Ivanhoe gardening thing with Urbana, the more impressed I am. And the fact that you guys brought along a wagon so people could carry their stuff back to their house, I thought, there's a very practical mind behind this. And it's a small thing, but it's just so important. And the fact there was entertainment for the kids, it was just extraordinarily well thought out. And I know that that's not the only thing we do that's that well thought out, but it was so obvious here. I just wanted to give everybody a pat on the back for that, because it was really impressive.
And there's several staff involved, but Chelsea deserves a lot of props.
Yeah, I figured that it was her. I wasn't sure, but yeah, I know that it's not just one, but it's pretty darn good.
It's pretty important to those people that receive it.
Absolutely.
Makes a big difference. to
Yes,
their lives.
yeah, it does. And it's, there isn't going to be an article in the News Gazette about it. It's just one of the small things that we do that makes a huge difference to the community that, we don't get any credit for, but it's really important that we do. I mean, since we're not doing it for credit.
The greatest part about it is that we learned what they want,
Mhm.
and that it's like home. It's what they're used to. It's their culture.
No, the greatest part is that you learned it and then you did what they wanted to, what they wanted. I mean, that's to me the most important, because lots of people learn, but they're still not willing to change their ways and do what suits the other person, because they have in their mind what they need, or what the people need, and you just go at it from the opposite direction, which is a much better way.
Well, we were pretty excited about it too.
Should be.
All right, if there are no other comments from commissioners, I think this meeting can be adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
You?